I've got Sean Clarke today. I am so appreciative of you joining me today. I love what you're doing in the space. You've been doing it for a good while now and well beyond Bitcoin, which we'll talk about. But let me tell you what I love about you. You have your strong clarity of conviction, courage to just be out there, walking and talking and day by day pushing. You have strong positive energy, good vibes. You seize the day, grab life by the reins. You get out there and do stuff. Everything about what you do, I love the spirit of it all. That's what I think attracts people to what you're doing, your podcast and your feed. And so I'm just really tickled to have you today. And so thanks for joining. How's your day going today?
Good, mate. We were talking just backstage. First off, Rich, thanks for having me on. It's nice to finally catch up after officially partnering with MicroSeed with Daniel and Robin. But today I had to I made the mistake of going to the shops coming up to Christmas. The place is absolute carnage. It's bedlam. It's overwhelming. I don't do good like in shopping centers in general. All the lights, the noise, the amount of people, the lines were like snaking out of the checkout, like down and then down into other aisles and things like that. And you're like, oh my God, this is too much for me. It's just simply overwhelming. So I'm super grateful that I've got this straight after to be able to reset myself, to be able to ground myself, to be able to get back to the signal with Bitcoin. So it's hectic morning, but I'm glad to be here now.
Yeah, it's mid-afternoon out there. I've had a work day, and this is the end of my day. So we're on different sides of the planet here, but the miracle of the internet. And this time of year, the holiday season, I was talking with Daniel this on Saturday at our regular Saturday podcast, and we've talked about it before, but kind of how some of these social constructs around holidays or events and things that happen. And I get it. I mean, when you have kids and they want little, the gifts or the treats or the things. But even as adults and later, it's kind of like the fiat mindedness about some of these otherwise social events and holidays. It's like this time of year leading up to Christmas, I try to plan ahead. My wife is better at it than I am. And then I'll be like, dang it, I got to get to the store. I got to get in. I got to do my stuff and be responsible as a dad for kids and for my wife. And but you're navigating stores, and what I see is like, oh my goodness, I don't do this often, and there's a reason why, because it's a madhouse. So
proper.
There's a lot of things I want to talk about in terms of like what's going on in Australia. I know you had a podcast with
there's a lot of craziness going on in Australia, Fritz.
Oh yeah, you had Scott Challen on, and I want to get to that first. I'd like to share something positive that I really admire about what you're doing, and that is your piloting. You shared a picture of your setup here at home. Wow. Microsoft Flight Simulator with the console and the controls. You've really been practicing like the instrument flight rules, and you're doing IFR now. Is that some of what you're
playing? Yeah, I'm sort of towards the back half of my IFR training at the moment. So I'm doing it in real life. Obviously, the sim it's set up in the background there. But it's really just to be able to learn the approach procedures, to be able to go through the plates. And I've set this cockpit up so it very similarly mimics the workflow that I have within their real aeroplane, which is a Sierra 200, a C-24R. I'm just waiting for like a GPS to arrive, because you can see in this picture, for example, there's the two G1000s, they're Garmin's. They're like very high-end avionics, to have that into an airplane, probably 120, 180 grand retrofit. Wow. Just amazing, just for the GPS and stuff and all the connections. So the airplane I'm flying's got an older model GPS, and at the moment, this on the touchpad here, which is that screen just in front of the iPad, on that black wooden thing, that mimics the Aspen displays, those primary flight display and the secondary flight display there in the middle. But once I have like the GPS unit and stuff, I'll be able to hide the GPSs that are on the big television, those big G1000s. And then I'll literally just be flying off this panel here. I won't be like really looking at anything on that big TV until I get to the moment of landing where I've hit minimums and I need to look up and see if I can see the runway. But yeah, it's good. It, probably put about $1,500 Australian into it so far. And I wanted to get it at the start of the year, but we're 18 months into a company startup, which is going really well. But I knew that if I got the sim stuff at the start of the year, it'd escalate pretty quickly. So I'd go from like the yoke or the control column, like the steering wheel and the throttle and stuff, and then I'd like keep building it out. So I like waited all year to be able to do that because I knew as soon as I had it, I'd just be a time sink and stuff. And I've had it for like 3 weeks and I've spent 1.6 days flying now over the last 3 weeks. So nice. It definitely has taken up a lot of time and stuff, but because we've come to Christmas and the organizations that we deal with are starting to wind down, I've had a little bit more capacity. So I built like the chair with the rudder pedals and stuff yesterday in the middle of a work day. It took me 40 odd minutes and a quick trip to Bunnings. But yeah, it's good. It's a lot of fun. And for anyone that like ever thinks, oh, I'd love to get into flying or something, just go for like a trial flight at your local airport. And it's usually about half the cost. And the instructor will be there next year. They'll take off. But then they'll like hand the controls over to you and you can steer the aeroplane. You can go up and down and do a couple of turns and things like that. Sometimes they'll guide you into land it and stuff. But it's really goes together with Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin being freedom technology and then like having a pilot's license allows you to be able to live out that freedom or have another level of freedom that's pretty unique, I guess. Yeah. And like we're in such an interesting time in human history, flight's sort of been powered flight just over 100 plus years, but it's still sort of in its infancy. Whereas if we were born, 100 years ago, number one, we didn't have Bitcoin. Number two, you couldn't just jump in an airplane, and go for a fly or whatever. And it's relatively cheap. Yes and no. I had to stop flying for 5 years to be able to stack Bitcoin. But now, so at the moment, like a training flight, it's like $1,300 roughly for about 2.5 hours up there. So that's costing $1,300 and I'm not spending my Bitcoin. But when I think about it, I was like, oh, well, 5 years ago when I said I'd stop flying to be able to stack Bitcoin, for every $75 that I saved 5 years ago, it's paying for like 2.5 hours of flight. And it's just remarkable what happens when you can delay that gratification for a little bit and still keep your eye on the prize. And the dream for me, that's dream fly either in the water, above the water, or under the water, and still be able to stack and everything like that.
Yeah, and you're fully engaged with life and passion and energy and its purpose and drive. There's a value in that. I've had this conversation before with, you can get really maxi about stacking sats, and every phone or everything you ever bought, just think about how much Bitcoin that is now. Yes, and there's a balance to stacking what you can when you can, but not ignoring life and just, like living in complete austerity because you're planning on a future, but you don't want to be lost in the present, planning on some future that is also unknowable. So there's a balance there, doing both, stacking what you can, not getting over your skis, but not ignoring life. And you're doing both. But no, I totally get what you're saying.
And just on that, Fritz, just quickly, like in regards to balance and stuff, this is something that, my wife's like all the time, like you need to have a little bit more balance in your life. You need to stop being like so hyper focused on one thing. And I'll be like, that just sounds like bullshit to me. I'm like, yes, the balance can come and stuff, but like where I was and now, after stacking Bitcoin or every 2 weeks for the last 5.5 years, I'm starting to bring a little bit more balance into my life. But I think, especially for new people entering Bitcoin, if you can be unbalanced for 4 years and stack Bitcoin like week in, week out, for as long as possible and just be psycho about it, I think that's going to allow you to be even more balanced after that 4-year period, instead of, like for me, like I literally gave up my dream, the thing that keeps me alive, the thing that got me through so many dark times, pain, everything like that, which was flying. I was like, I'm going to stop flying for 4 years. Got to the 4-year mark. I'm like, this is going great. I ended up buying a secondhand jet ski because I knew I needed something to decompress. So there's like a little bit of balance there, but like the price discrepancy, a couple of $1,000 compared to tens of thousands of dollars a year. So like 6 months of flight training paid for the jet ski, and that lasted 5 years. But I got to the 4-year mark. I'm like, this is going great. I'll go another year. Got to the 5-year mark, and I'm like, okay, like this is long enough. Like, now's the time to be able to bring a little bit more balance in. But the balance didn't exist for 5.5, nearly 6 years in total.
Yeah, it's a good approach to have. Just check in with yourself periodically, reconciling where your balance is at from time to time. I can easily, like myself, I can definitely go down rabbit holes and be like, I have a thing and it's just my main thing and I can't get enough of it and I'm doing it all the time, or I'm thinking about it all the time. And like with my wife, I have to balance the relationship. Like she's good for a lot and she's for Bitcoin. She trusts me and like handling a lot there and talking about it, but I have to dose her appropriately so that it's not too much all the time. That's all I care about. And she's like, can we go on vacation? And it's like, that's a lot of sats. And but anyway, you might be right, but you also want to be married. So
100%.
I went through
and family and health.
Yes.
Sorry, on that point, family and health trump wealth any day of the week.
There you go.
Yeah, so definitely like have your priorities set. But I guess the wealthier you are when you're in a good relationship and you're healthy, like the better just your life experiences and in general. Or if you're wealthy and you've got a good relationship, but you're not healthy, then something's obviously missing. And then you're going to spend, like your relationship's actually not going to be that good. Maybe you don't have the stamina to make good love, for example, or to be able to go for nice romantic walks on the beach. But I really think you have to have those 3 pillars of the stool to have a solid foundation in life. And it doesn't really matter what one comes first, but definitely want to work around like having all of those things in place to be living like the best life. And I think Bitcoin really leads to that in short order.
Yeah, it's like you don't want to be, oh yeah, I'm wealthy later, and I don't have other things built up in my life that I miss now, or whatever. But yeah, maintaining, keeping a foot in both worlds, and you've put in your time. So like you said, you depending on when people get into Bitcoin and how they transition their lives around changes that occur in their brain and their interests and everything about it, you go through change intrinsically, and you find kind of your new balance and what makes sense. And it can't just be all in on one thing necessarily. I mean, there's human relationships to be considered and all that too. I went through back in college. This is like a late 90s. I went through ground school, and I have like a couple of flight hours under my belt, like kind of like just training as part of that.
Awesome.
I love it. So, I mean, talk about feeling free. And I mean, like there's nothing else like it when you're up there and it's just a rush. I mean, the instructor letting me steer and do stuff. And it's like, holy cow, like I feel alive right now.
Yeah.
What I just couldn't swing at the time was like, okay, if I'm going to keep doing this, it's like getting a deal on renting some time kind of regular or paying for it hour by hour. And it turned into like, okay, doing the math on the expense of that. If I could have, I would have though, because being a pilot would just be
Yeah.
like as a hobby, at least it would be really fun. What is the plane that you fly, or one of the planes?
Yeah, at the moment it's the Sierra 200, which is very similar to like a Baron, just a single engine, four-seater airplane, retractable undercarriage, constant speed propeller on it. They don't go crazy fast, about 120 knots. A Cessna sort of top end will go like 110, 120. So they're not really that much faster, but as like an IFR training platform and stuff, it's good, it's decent. It's I'm glad it's not, say the Baron, for example, they're traveling at more like 150, 155 knots. And because everything like happens so fast and so quick, so you do like your pre-flight inspection, etc., like that. You get all your clearances, and you go through like all the checklists and everything like that, which I was working on this morning. And then you take off, and then you get handed over, and then you sort of and you cruise climb. Well, you're in your climb, and then you go into your cruise, and then when you're in cruise, you need to do like your clear off checks, and then your what's the acronym? I'm having a mind blank at the moment. It's been the shops just fried my brain, but I'll remember it in 2 secs. Anyway, then you go into another check, and then you load the approach and everything like that, and like you're getting. Everything's like happening so fast. And there's just the last flight, which was my first night flight, I felt like I was ahead of the aeroplane at every stage. Like I was ahead of the checklist, and I was ready for it, and I was just waiting for the right time to start executing those checklists. But like the flight previously, even though we're only traveling at 120 knots, I felt like I was so far behind, and I'd get to a point where I was like, I'm meant to be doing this checklist now, and I'm meant to be going through these things, but I'm nowhere near ready or whatever. And then we'd be like getting closer and closer and closer to start the descent and to be able to land with it. Whereas contrast that to like a faster airplane, like a Bonanza. At this stage, there is just no way that I'd be able to keep up with the workload and everything like that. And I guess that's really why I am purpose building this sim here, and it's very close to. You can see the iPad on the control column that'll load the approach plates and everything like that. There's another GPS for situational awareness. I'll show you like your tracking things. But yeah, once the proper little GPS unit arrives, then I'll just be able to go for a flight, and just get quicker and quicker and quicker and going through the checklist. And instead of having the paper checklists out of the aeroplane for the emergencies, have started loading it onto a phone app, which will then connect to my headset via Bluetooth, and I can just call up and say like, hey Goose, bring up this checklist or whatever, like emergency, like engine failure after takeoff or whatever. Bring up the engine failure checklist, and it'll start to go through it, and I can be like check or okay or whatever, and it'll just start checking them off. So just finding and using technology to be able to get faster and improve and be able to reiterate. And obviously like that's for flying, but I think for anything, it's just that the Kaizen effect, where it's like 1% better every day or every time that we do something. And when we look back, at the end of the year, if it's 1% better a day, that's 365% better at the end of the year. It's incredible. Like these small things can add up, and it's ultimately very satisfying when you're ahead of the airplane or whatever it is in life, if you feel like you're confident and competent in regards to whatever you're doing, and that comes from like proper planning and preparation. That's it.
That's the type of plane, eh?
Yep. Yeah, Beechcraft Sierra. They're a neat little kit, they're
like 6 seats in there, or?
That one looks like it's 6 seats. Oh no, it's still 4 seats.
4?
I think I think they're all 4-seaters, and the Bonanza, which looks similar shape and stuff like that, same manufacturer, they may have 6 seats or sometimes 5 seats, like a bit of a jump seat.
Yeah, of all the software that Microsoft has produced over the years, I got to tell you, I mean, I think version 1 or whatever of Microsoft Flight Simulator came out a long time ago. It might have been the early 90s or mid 90s.
I reckon I had it as a kid in the 90s.
Yeah, I played it, and it actually got my wheels kind of clicking about like you could use this to learn a lot. And Microsoft really put in a lot of due diligence, listening to pilots. They had apparently developers that really were into it. And they, over the years, have honed it and honed it. It is fantastic software. I mean, and like you mentioned, I think you posted somewhat recently, you can plug in like kind of live weather, local weather happening, things like that. The airports, you can go to any airport, land in different airports, and it is the airport, like just like it is. So
yeah, it's pretty crazy. Like we can move on to the Bitcoin, but Bitcoin and flying or just freedom technology is pretty interesting to me. But like I'll load up the airport that I go to and I'll have the airplane sitting there cold, turned off in front of the hangar that I go out of. And then I'll like walk around with the little computer guy, do all the pre-start inspections and everything like that, and then jump into the airplane, go through the checklist, and then start it up. And then you like call up air traffic control, ATC, and you get your clearance or whatever. And it's like the same. You taxi to the same holding points, etc. You're taking off on the runway. It looks very similar. Like the buildings aren't rendered perfectly, but you can get skins, and like the really big airports and stuff are. I live in regional Queensland, so. But it's absolutely phenomenal. And like last point on this, for anyone that's like, oh, flying's too expensive or whatever, get yourself a simulator, spend a little bit of money to be able to set it up, to be able to do it right. But what like my instructors and other flight instructors and stuff have said is they'll have someone that's had no in real life flying experience. They'll come and they've got a lot of sim experience, and they'll say like some of those people are ready to go solo that day straight away. You know, they've got all the skills and they know everything. If you're using this as not a toy, but as a training device, or like you can extrapolate this out into anything else, as just like going through, and our mind can't really distinguish the difference between what we do in real life or imagine, like if we work through and imagine us going it step by step, there is no difference between those two. So like the more realistic that you can make something in your life to be able to practice it, then when you go to do that real thing, you know, you're just like slipping like butter.
Exactly. Yeah, it's so realistic. By the time you're in a plane, it's basically your own mind overthinking like this is real now, but otherwise it's like you've got probably a lot of muscle memory in there already. Do you think that kind of that independent spirit, that passion to go out there and do the things, is that contributing to your discovery of Bitcoin, or what led you to Bitcoin?
Greed, wanted to get wealthy. Like so many people. Yeah, number go
initially,
up. Yeah, truly. And like it is what it is. It's very much transformed, and I couldn't really care about the price. You know, people are panicking that we're under 100K. I'm celebrating. We're under 100K. It's cheap Bitcoin. Like I love it. I love the red days more so than the green. The green days now give me a bit of anxiety, and I'm like, shit, I'm still stacking.
Yeah, I'm still trying to catch up.
Just hang out. But I was working as the location manager of Seabob Jets. These are like underwater jet skis or like sea scooters that go under, like above the water and under the water. You just hold on and you just wherever you're pointed or whatever, really fast. They can go up to 26 kilometers an hour underwater, 40 meters deep. When I was taking people on guided snorkel tours and stuff out of the like Hayman Daydream Island up in the Whitsundays, Hayman's a 5-star resort. Daydream Island, maybe a 2.5, 3-star, or like family area type thing. But like we'd lock them out so they could only go like 5 meters deep and like really slow the speed down for safety purposes and stuff. But I was doing that, went for a holiday down to Byron Bay, and ended up staying with a mate and stuff who had just sold his internet business for like millions of dollars. Huge amount. He was quite young as well. And he ended up buying like a huge property, and I helped him set up or get the process underway to set up a permaculture farm with him there. And then I came back up. I was going back up to Daly Beach, little place, ended up stopping there, and I've been here ever since. But I think maybe like 12 months later, maybe a year later, totally gotten rid of any toxins out of my life, totally gotten clean and things like that. And I was like, you've just wasted a whole lot of years of your life. Always been very wealth focused. Since a kid, I can get into that. Just a shitty childhood. Knew that money, not fiat, but money was very important for freedom. I did learn at a young age, about 14, that fiat was candy wrappers, monopoly money. So I started going down the path of gold. Anyway, cut a long story short, I then called this guy up maybe a year later or whatever and said, mate, what stock do I invest in? And he's like, I don't invest in stocks. So I'm like, okay, like what do you invest in? He's like, crypto. I'm like, what crypto do you invest in? And I didn't know anything about it. And he's like, oh, don't tell my friends, because if it goes bad, they'll no longer be friends. I'm like, I've got $400 cash in my hand. Like, it's $400. Either tell me or I flush it down the toilet. I don't give a fuck. It's candy wrappers, it's monopoly money. I don't care if I lose it. It's not worth anything. And he's like, okay. And he told me, and that, like, in a couple of weeks did a 10x. I was like, holy shit. But pretty much like from when I bought it, it was like starting to go up. So I'm like, what is cryptocurrency? And then Google spits out the first ever cryptocurrency was Bitcoin. I'm like, how much is Bitcoin? And it's $30,000 Australian. I was like, oh my God. And 2014, I said I'd buy it when it was $94. Mm-hmm. I was working on the cruise boats at that stage. I was standing on the back after we had just cleaned the ship, ready for the turnaround to be able to depart again. I'm like, I'm going to buy Bitcoin this week. It was $94 Australian. It's like $70 odd US, $60 odd US. And didn't buy it, all went up in smoke. The next week, same thing. I'm going to buy Bitcoin. It was at $96 and didn't buy it. That went up in smoke and went back out to sea. Didn't really think about it until 2017 when we were buying it and we were ordering things off in those online dark web marketplaces and things like that. I was just giving a mate cash, and he'd turn that into Bitcoin. We had all of the things that would arrive in CD case and shit in the mail, which is kind of different. Yeah, just freaking crazy, different. But that was like the closest I got to Bitcoin until then. 2019 came about, and then the crypto told me about it. And then straight away, like once I started Googling, what is the first crypto? Oh, what is cryptocurrency? The first ever cryptocurrency was Bitcoin. How much is Bitcoin? Like 30,000. Like, oh my God, that's 300 times more expensive than when I first said I'd buy it. I need to look into this. So I started just reading everything I possibly could. I love reading. Like my wife sent me a message yesterday and she's like, hey, nerd, check this out. And it was like an aviation museum. And I'm like, fuck, I love it. But like books have been my solace and stuff, especially as a kid going through the trauma. It's just how I'd escape, which has served me well, obviously, with Bitcoin. But I just started reading everything I could. Andreas Antonopoulos had a really good book. Obviously, the Bitcoin Standard came out a little bit later into my journey. I'd already been stacking. In regards to that, I was just getting distracted by I'm a New Creature. Shout out, brother. It's good to see you, man. There in the comments. But I just started reading everything and I was like, okay, I don't know like how quick, but like within 2 weeks, I figured out that Bitcoin was the money. And I didn't know what the cryptocurrency or anything was. I thought it was like technology, or maybe like Bitcoin was digital gold and these cryptocurrencies were like digital silver and shit like that. There's a lot of the narratives, the bullshit going on or whatever. And I bought it like hook, line, and sinker. And I thought there were these amazing technology plays and decentralized file storage and stuff, and Ethereum being the decentralized internet, Web3, and then Solana came along and everything like that. just pure, just degeneracy. You know, they've got marketing companies
I
behind
love
them.
your hard takes on shit coinery.
I just can't stand them. Like I hoodwinked myself into believing the lies, the misinformation, the propaganda that these PR firms push out. Bitcoin doesn't have a public relations company behind it. There is no marketing budget, but all these shitcoins do have that. And if we're told something enough times, we start to believe it. So I was like brainwashing myself into all this new technology, etc., like that. And then I got like personally rug pulled as a targeted attack directly at me. And in that moment, I was just like, holy cow. Oh my God. Like I've been hoodwinked, and I just woke up in that moment. And that day, any crypto, anything that I have left, I just totally got rid of it. Sold it 100%.
I went through that same thing. Yeah.
Bitcoin only. And it's just like, oh my God. The issue is that the money is broken, and especially here in Australia, like you're asking, what's the state of Australia at the moment? One thing in regards to Australians, they love to gamble. They love their sports bet. They love to go down to the Crown Casino, the pokies, the scratchy cards, the lotto, golden casket, whatever it is. Like, fun fact, the person that built this house 30 odd years ago won the golden casket. So that went to a good use. I guess it's a beautiful home and stuff. But that's just sort of like the mindset of Australia stereotype, you know. There's Bitcoiners especially aren't like that. But it just, I was like, like the money's broken. Bitcoin's the money. Fix the world. In the words of my good friend Lawrence Lepard. And I was like, I don't want anyone to get hoodwinked like I did like that. Even though I profited and like walked away with more gains, I wouldn't say money. Well, I actually did walk away with more money because I put it into Bitcoin. I was smart about it. That period and that process was just a total waste of my life. So that 18 months that I was in altcoins, shitcoins, I didn't learn anything. I'd made all this money, like enough to sort of do whatever I wanted for a couple of years, if not longer. And I just stayed at my bullshit job because early in that Bitcoin journey, I don't know if it's Andre Antonopoulos or whoever it was, said, just buy Bitcoin week in, week out for 4 years and don't stop doing that. So I took that to heart. And it's sort of like within that first 2 year, 18-month period that I'd made all this money. And then it was like, do I quit my job or do I keep going? And the job was pretty good. It was pretty chilled. It was easy going. I could listen to podcasts and stuff. I was really good at it, very competent, confident, etc. But it was like, if I leave this job, I'm going to start to pull down on my Bitcoin. And I'd like finally created, you know, a bit of wealth in my life, and I didn't want to squander it or anything. So I ended up staying at that bullshit job. And then I like really focused deep down on like being very intentional with the skills that I was stacking. And then I got to a point where I was like, all right, this is just crazy me being here. Like there is just absolutely no reason for me to still be here. I'm going to take a risk and do something with my wife. And we set up this company and stuff. And at that stage, I was willing that if we needed to, we had this Bitcoin buffer because it was just we're using it as savings. If the company wasn't working out or it took a little bit longer to be able to get going, we could draw down on that slowly, like as little as possible. But at that stage, I was prepared because I knew that I had the skills to be able to make it work eventually. But then... So took the risk, everything like that. Within 3 months, we were totally sorted, and then it's just been on the up and up since, and didn't actually ever have to touch that Bitcoin. But I guess like the takeaways for people watching is like once, like everyone, so not everyone, but so many people want Bitcoin to be at 200,000, 250, 444K, you know, Josh Mandel throwing that number around, which was totally degenerate. People buying that like hook, line, and seeker. It'll get there, and it'll get there very quickly. But like if you're like waiting and praying for that to happen today so that you can quit your job or anything like that, we can't control the price of Bitcoin. Like it'll do what it'll do, up, down, and sideways. We can control the skills that we have, and the higher order skills that we have, or the more useful skills that we have, we can provide value to society, whether it's a service or a product or whatever it is, and then get paid to be able to stack even more Bitcoin. And it may take a couple of years for Bitcoin to get to 250,000, 444K. But by the time that it does, you've got the skills. So then you don't need to even draw down at those prices, and you can just let it compound and compound and compound in fiat dollars. And we are going to get to a point really quickly, I think, within the next 3 years, where you're going to be like, I'm glad I did everything I could to stack as much Bitcoin as I possibly could, and I didn't draw down, and I increased my value to the world to be able to earn more fiat or Bitcoin directly to be able to get more Bitcoin. Or people are going to get to a point in 3 or 4 years where they're like, oh shit, like I fucked up. I didn't stack enough. I sold when I shouldn't have, or whatever. I was too busy trying to play the markets and time the markets and everything like that. Made a little bit of money, didn't learn any skills. Now I'm drawing down. Or for most people, 90% of people lose 90% of their money within 90 days of trading and stuff. So like they're not good track records and stuff. But digital IDs, CBDCs, social credit scores, they are coming, and they're going to come pretty quickly. And once they're here, especially if they cut off the off-ramps from banks onto Bitcoin, once it's too late, it's too late. So like we've got an opportunity now where we're early, but I don't know how long it's going to last. Like you're either going to be early or you're going to be late. And once it's too late, that's game over. So hopefully that helps somebody.
Totally. We're in a very special moment here. The opportunity is now. When it brings to mind all kinds of things about time preference, feeling late, being early, getting impatient.
So early.
We're early. And so like anytime anyone's like, when I got into it, I felt so late. And then people would say, oh, you were so early. And I'll be like, or I'm late. And I'll be like, you are not late. I was not late. I'm not really early either. It's just the time is now. And so like you get to a point where you felt late and you're stacking and stacking, you're all rabid about it. And then you get to a point and you make that shift of, well, now I want number to go up. And it's such a psychological game that you have to step back, stay humble, stack sats. And like what you said, I want to get to that. So what my thought is, and I see it unfolding rapidly in weird ways in Britain and in England. It's happening in America, just kind of in a wonky way. It's like random. I think big players are positioning themselves and evaluating the space. But like in Australia, I see you've got a big, beautiful country, great people. And I think in there is that spirit of fierce independence and capability. And yet like I've heard you say, and others say, it's like the politicians are Muppets and it's about control freakism. What I see happening is that, yes, probably comparatively to like the Australian dollar, but the dollar, say, is a wreck. It's a lost cause. It's a fiat Titanic ship sinking steadily, and they can bail and they can, keep playing the music and keep serving at the bar. Everything's fine, folks. But as the Titanic sinks, what I see is like some sort of great panic, some operation off the shelf, pulling up, down. Let's play this now. We're kind of ready for it. And it's going to thrust us into problem, reaction, solution, where you have economic problem and we need our CBDC, comes with digital ID. People get their UBI. AI is going to take your jobs. And people will just kind of say, yeah, that makes sense. And I see people herding right into being on the government dole or being disincentivized and given up, I guess. I just feel like it's going to short circuit a whole lot about humanity, and the cage will come down. So get your Bitcoin now, take self-custody, because I feel like a lot of this, the walled gardens are here, the cage is kind of dropping, and you want to have it in self-custody. Thoughts on that?
You don't want to, like, It's essential. Like, number one, if you couldn't take Bitcoin into self-custody, if that design feature didn't exist with Bitcoin, Bitcoin would be worth nothing. Like, it wouldn't have any use case. It wouldn't be what it is today at a $1.76 trillion market cap. The market cap would be $0. And like, for anyone new, if you've randomly found the stream, self-custody means all you do is you write down the 12 or 24 words on a piece of paper to begin with. You can stamp them on something like MicroSeed, where you can fit all 12 or 24 words on a single 1-inch washer.
I got one too.
Whether it's stainless steel, titanium, nylon, whatever, but like stainless steel minimum. And then you run your own node. And there are a couple of steps. There's about 7 steps between now and then to be able to get there, to be able to take full control of it. But by taking self-custody, once the digital IDs and the central bank digital currencies come out, along with that, they can't stop you spending it. They can't stop you using it. There's no government, institution, person, entity, corporation that can debase it, that can take it away from you when it's done right. But this opportunity in regards to self-custody, like, I think we've got 3 years. Like you mentioned digital IDs. The Australian government's been working on digital IDs, researching digital IDs for more than 10 years here in Australia. We just had the under 16 social media ban passed. It's absolutely failing. They can see that it's failing. I think they knew that it was going to fail. But problem, reaction, solution. Oh, problem, under 16 social media bill. It's not working. We're not keeping the children safe. What do we need to do? Everyone needs a freaking digital ID now to be able to access the internet. That's coming. And we may start to see something. There's something coming out on the 27th of December in regards to IDs to access the internet and stuff in Australia. Like, they're marching people down this totalitarian footstep or totalitarian world where they have total control. And, you know, again, like what we were saying, once it's too late, it's too late. So, like, is self-custody, is it nice to have? No, like, it's freaking essential. If you want any resemblance of freedom in your life, if you want to be a free man or woman, to be able to take control of your destiny, to be able to steer your ship wherever you want, it has to be Bitcoin and self-custody. And what if I'm wrong? It doesn't matter. Like, then you just transfer it to the exchange, or like you just use it. So like, there is zero downside from Bitcoin in self-custody. Maybe the 2 downsides. Either you pay for mentoring, like from someone like the best in the world, Tony, the team at the Bitcoin Way. They can teach you how to do it. Cost versus value, like the cost is insignificant. Or you pay in your time by learning it off YouTube, off the internet, asking people. Like, that's the downside of self-custody. You have to learn it, and it's going to cost you something, time or money. But like, so what? It's going to protect your time and money by doing it right. And if the world doesn't go dystopian, if the government doesn't seek more control, if the government doesn't bring out digital IDs, if the government doesn't bring out central bank digital currencies, it's still safe, it's still secure. You're not going to lose it if it's done right. And there's no like chance of the exchange getting hacked, you're losing it all. Like, it's only an upside, apart from, you know, it's just something new. But aside from that, like, I don't think, you know, people will share custody or whatever with like companies like on-chains, things like that. You know, if you're using on-chains, another company that's friends with on-chain, and then you've got one key, that company's got a key, on-chain's got a key or something. It's not your Bitcoin. That's more their Bitcoin than your Bitcoin, for example. Or if it's on the ETF, that's Larry Fink's Bitcoin. That's not your Bitcoin. If it's on the exchange, for example, it's the exchange's Bitcoin. You don't own shit. You own nothing until you take self-custody of it. And then you do it. And whether you get mentored or you self-teach to be able to do it, once you go through that process, it is so empowering. Like, that is another tool in your tool belt. That is another skill. And that is a skill that is very useful. Your friends, your family, your community, everybody needs Bitcoin and everybody's going to need it. So like learn the skills and then be able to be that person or that node within your community or your family group or your friend group where you can help either directly or help by pushing them to the right people to be able to steer them in the right path. So that obviously as people come in, everyone's still early, but as people come in, the later and later it gets, the closer we're getting to whatever that moment is where off-ramps totally shut down. So you want to be able to get people to get it as quick as possible so that they get the conviction up. Once they have the conviction up and they understand what they're doing and what Bitcoin is, they are going to get more and more and more of it, which is ultimately beneficial for people in your circle to have more Bitcoin today than they did yesterday.
Absolutely. And I mean, so you hear the FUD or people who are learning about Bitcoin and like, well, what if, what's the remote scenario where Bitcoin fails? It wasn't decentralized enough. It wasn't secure enough. The power grid goes out. There's a solar flare, all the things, and like Bitcoin shuts down or for a while or whatever, or it's hard to do. That's a different world. Like if Bitcoin fails, it'd be like, well, do I regret having participated and tried or having my Bitcoin in one form or another? No, because that's a whole different dark path that is not like, you're not worried about maybe even your money per se as survival. Bitcoin is hope and a golden age potential for our future. It was like, it's like the invention of fire, the wheel, the internet. We never in human history have we had such a tool that gave us such the potential for freedom with a change in the rules. It'd be like what do you watch more in Australia? Is it like rugby or football, Australian football?
I don't know.
I
don't watch team
I don't
sports.
follow sports a lot, but let's just stay off. Like let's call
I
it
dare
rugby.
say rugby, or it's got Australia in the name, so AFL maybe. I don't know.
So
some type of ball sport.
So the game has degenerated into, you touch somebody and they flop and the refs are just looking for fouls and the sport's a joke. And Bitcoin comes in and says that no longer works. This is an analogy I got from our buddy Daniel, by the way, but it'd be like there's a fundamental rule change where that just can't happen anymore. You can't steal or call foul on someone else. If you're going to play this game, you're going to play the sport. And the sport is what the spirit of the game is. And it's now you have to focus on actual skill, athleticism, playing fair, playing with a team. You can't play these fiat games anymore. So it changes the game. Now people FUD on, well, now TradFi is coming in and doing their walled garden stuff. I get it. I don't think it's bad for Bitcoin. It was inevitable. The banks were going to get in on it. The nation states and governments are going to try to get in on it. There could be a race there or strategic whatever. As long as plebs like you and me can take self-custody, I don't care if they want to play the game, because I think it only could probably help the network overall as long as people are running their nodes. So I just say, run a node, take self-custody. Those are core. So when it comes to governance, and so like, for example, problem, reaction, solution, like what I saw in Britain per se, we create this immigration problem, this mess. Oh my God. Now when I heard of like, oh, people are upset about that now. And I thought, wow, this was impressively planned, or was it not planned? Did they just get lucky on this stuff? The solution to the immigration problem now, people on the right, is digital ID, because we're going to crack down. Now we can verify immigration or citizenry or terrorism or all the things. Terrorism itself, you had, where was it, on the beach somewhere? There was the attacks, the shootings.
Absolutely freaking horrific.
Let no emergency go to
people
waste.
At the beach.
Yeah. So in immigration in Australia as well, causing social unrest. And here we go again.
It's not immigration's not the problem.
Okay.
It's mass immigration is the issue. Yeah. So like anytime anyone brings up mass immigration, they're like, you're racist or whatever. This country was built on immigration. Yes, that is true. We need immigration. The country benefits from immigration. It's just the sheer mass, the extraordinary numbers at the moment when we're in a cost of living crisis, housing crisis, you know, like the amount of Australians, like somewhere between 100 and 400,000 Australians sleeping homeless now. You go to get a rental or whatever and the lines are snaking around the street, down the stairwells, etc., like that. So I just want to be clear. I don't think anyone with a bit of common sense has any issue with immigration. It's just the government are just trying to prop up GDP by flooding the country, and they don't give a fuck about the consequences. And then the consequences happen where there's tensions and things boil over and people get shot up at the fucking beach on a Sunday to celebrate their special event. Like, what the fuck? Like, that's not Australia, but it's just bringing in so many people with all the chaos going on, and not aligning with the easygoing nature of Australians. Like, they're just super fucking chill, like in general. Pretty laid back, she'll be right kind of attitude, mate. And then these things happen. And then the response from the Prime Minister, that dickhead in Canberra, that fucking muppet, is this is right-wing extremism. Yes, it was right-wing extremism. That's the definition of it. But what he's doing is he's conflating that with what he labels right-wing people. And there's this like group, they're a bunch of fucking clowns that go out and they protest and they're far right and stuff, but he's like bringing them into it. They had nothing to do with the shooting, but they're trying to like outlaw that. And then they're just trying to make it about what they label the far right, which would have been probably centre in general, predominantly, apart from, you know, the neo-Nazis, zero time for their bullshit, what they're doing. But even so, like, they're not a terrorist organization or anything like that. They've got some pretty like flawed or skewed beliefs. That's fine. But he's trying to like bring the issue. He's trying to change the perspective of the issue in so many ways. And how do you do that? Well, we're going to clamp down on guns. Australia's already got some of the strictest gun laws in the entire world. They want to make it even harder for people to be able to have guns. And like, one of the shooters had 6 registered firearms in his name, I believe. I may get the numbers a little bit wrong or whatever. And so they're like, you know, illegal gun ownership, we're going to go after the guns. It's got fucking nothing to do with it. It's just about disarming the population more and more and more for the government to have more and more control. Because in that situation, say that person didn't have a gun license. If they had the intention, like they didn't have a bomb making license and they still had tennis ball bombs, pipe bombs, things like that. Like, just the mental gymnastics they go through to be able to find a way to be able to take more and more freedom and stuff is it's absolutely absurd, you know. And that's just one example, but it's sort of coming with everything, like superannuation, which is our like retirement 401k type equivalent thing. They wanted to tax unrealized capital gains. So if you're just pure fucking theft. If your balance was over $3 million and you made a profit, they wanted some of that unrealized profit off it. It's just insane, you know. Think about farmers and things like that have their property, their farm, and their superannuation, their self-managed super fund. And that obviously failed and it didn't go through. But they're going to try it again, and they'll try it again. And, you know, digital IDs, whatever comes out on the 27th, I don't know. It won't be a digital ID, and people like push back against that or whatever, but they'll just keep trying until they get it, or they'll wait for another problem. So then they can stir up the reaction again, which what they've done with Bondi. And there's people saying, yeah, like Australia's got too many guns and things like that. It's like the percentage of gun crime in Australia, it's like 99% or something like that is from illegal firearms anyway. It's not the legally owned firearms. So they're just making it harder.
Criminalize all the responsible folks. And it can be here in the States too. Like there's another law. that sort of makes all the various details about, for example, gun ownership weirder and weirder and weirder, where you're not even sure anymore, like how you can transport it, or like these magazines that I had are too big now, or oh, I used to be able to sell it or lend it to a buddy, and now I mean, you feel like a criminal, and you're really just doing your best. Meanwhile, is a criminal going to pay attention to that, or oh, there's a sign on the door that says murder is not allowed here? I guess I won't then. You can't shoot people up in this building. Dang it,
Yeah.
I'm going to turn around and go back and think about, well, my life.
Yeah, that's right.
No, these are extremists that need to be dealt with individually. Instead, yes, the reaction is like, okay, now nobody can do anything like this anymore because you're all not responsible and daddy, mommy knows best, like a nanny state. So
yep.
it's
Hey, and a
painful.
good example of that is this under 16 social media bill. Something horrific happened to a young child due to social media. I don't know if he or she committed suicide or attempted or whatever, but I think there's two people that really like kicks this off. So a petition was made, and it got 100 and something thousand signatures for it, that we should ban people under the age of 16 from social media. I don't know I don't know who they asked to be able to do it. I'd be like, yes, that's very sad. That's unfortunate. But where the fuck were the parents in this situation? And, you know, this is a tool. This is the greatest tool for kids. YouTube and AI is really what allowed me to get free and to be able to learn those skills. So we want to take away these things from them. But so they like listen to that and they're like, oh, cool. There's 100,000 signatures, 100,000 plus or whatever. This looks like a great way that we can steal more control. We're going to do it. We're going to run with it. And then when they talk about it and the media campaigns and stuff, there's 100 and something thousand signatures. We had to do this. You know, we're mandated. If we didn't do it, it wouldn't be responsible. At the moment now, there's a petition going around to sign to get rid of Anthony Albanese, the Prime Minister. And it's up to like 280,000, maybe 300,000 signatures now or whatever. But they're going to look at that and they'll be like, oh, that's just a small part of the population. That's irrelevant. You know, this doesn't take into account everyone, and they'll just dismiss it straight away. They're just not going to care. So when it comes to things that they want to do that empower them, even if it's got like a third less of the signatures or whatever, this is mandated. The public are calling for it. They're demanding it. Like, we have to do the right thing. We need to be there for these parents and these vulnerable children and stuff. Whereas the thing that would actually be best for this country is getting rid of Anthony Albanese. And there's a lot of signatures. There's 3 times the amount demanding for it in such a short period of time. They'll be like, no, that doesn't serve us. Throw it out. Not going to pay any attention to it.
Yeah. And it, you know, it's a big country. It's a big world. Crazy shit happens in this world. And so like, I think of, so a lot of stuff happens and you may not ever hear about it, or it's managed. We get through it. It sucks, but life goes on. But you can see governments or politicians picking and choosing. Okay, here's a thing we're going to hold up. And so it gives them a reason to do something that fits the direction they want to go. I think of, one thing I mentioned at a previous podcast was like lately you'll see the whole FUD around quantum computing and the threat to Bitcoin. You know what? That now one of the narratives that came from was Luke Gromen, who, huge respect. I love Luke Gromen. He has presented so much solid information about markets and strategy, and you know, he's for Bitcoin. He's thinking about a lot of things, and you know, it's not that he was ignored. It's just that it wasn't like promoted into here's a hook for everybody. So he's talking for years about all kinds of stuff, including good Bitcoin stuff. And, you know, you and I and the Bitcoiners hear it and pure signal. But he mentioned something about, you know, recent bear market, which I think if this is a bear market, it's more shallow and narrow than bear markets have been that I've ridden through. Yeah. But then that narrative is pulled up as like quantum, folks, quantum. Oh my goodness, quantum. like kind of like it was kind of picked out in a weird way. The timing with the samurai devs walking into federal prison, weird price dynamics going on, and you could get conspiratorial about it. I'm not saying it's a conspiracy, but what I feel like is that as we're kind of like been through kind of the Bitcoin chasm going into early broader adoption. And I think big players are starting to position themselves around the tool we all have now, that they want to not be late. This is my theory, but there's wonky stuff going on. And I think it's often driven by powers that be, big moneyed players that are positioning themselves. And I think 2026 could be a very interesting year. I feel crazy bullish. That's not to say that I want to be buying on the green candles. I like it when it's red and like I can stack some more. I do feel like 2026 is an era where the mainstream adoption is going to start to go a little nuts. Do you think that's coming?
It's definitely coming. Maybe for a little bit of perspective. So around about September last year, I think price predictions, everything, a load of shit. But, September last year, to line up with the normal cycles, the bull run would have ended September, October this year. And so I put out my own prediction of Bitcoin would be 120 to 150K around September 2025. It ended up being like 127. So that's pretty close too. But leading up to September, like earlier in this year, with Josh coming out with 444K, Jack Moeller saying 250 to $1 million, other people coming out. And then people to me would say, like, Sean, you're so bearish. I'm like, okay, like I don't give a fuck. Like really, the number's sort of irrelevant. But it's just like a very low number, sort of aligns with the power laws a little bit higher, I guess, and some other data points. And it's just a gut feel from watching the markets pretty much every day for a couple of years. We hit it. So like anything above or below is all the bonus with it. It's a bonus if it goes from 120 to $1 million, like that's great. Everyone's retiring. You're all getting girlfriends. Anything under, like it's an opportunity to be able to stack sats. So, in regards to next year and what do I think will happen, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe we get a little bit of a Christmas rally. It just feels like it. Even yesterday with Bitcoin starting to pump a little bit. It's actually like it's my X feed, even if I don't see the price, I sort of know what the price is doing, and that's how I saw it come up. Right. Or if I'm having a podcast, I'll bring up time chain calendar just so I'm aware of it, but I don't really check it at any other time. But like coming up to Christmas and stuff like that, we may have this like bit of a Santa Claus rally. Maybe that takes us back over 100,000. Maybe it doesn't. Above 100,000. It's all good. Under 100,000, like it's a bonus. But say coming into 2026, 2027, open up that time frame a little bit. Whatever manipulation is happening, I don't think it's all manipulation. I don't think we've stayed around $100,000 all year just because of manipulation. Like the amounts of people that have been selling, that have been holding, etc., have kept us down here as well. So I do think it's been distorted a little bit. That distortion can only last for so long. And whenever that dam breaks and Bitcoin really starts to rally and we go from say like 127 to 150 to 250K or 200,000 even, then the mainstream media is really going to jump on that positivity. And that's when you see everyone come back. And Bitcoin's price is set at the margin. So you don't need... So we're at 1.76 trillion at 88,000. You don't need another 1.76 trillion to go to 169,000 or whatever that math works. 179,000.
Yeah, it's not straight
176. Yeah, that's right. So like, $100 billion could come in and it could push up I'm just making the numbers up, but just
Yeah.
like for a mental model, a small amount could come in all at once and then push us up, chop around, go sideways for a little bit. My retail wakes up, they start to get in it. They're like buying a little bit coming up, and then like one of those big buys. So I think whether it's 26, 27, we are going to get to a point where we are seeing these God candles to the upside, which $10,000 in a day. And I think once we start to see the God candles to the upside, we've already had them to the downside this cycle, not to the upside. In Australian dollars, we had a God candle, 10K, but it doesn't really count. But I think once we start to see one, then we'll get another one and another one and another one. I think that'll happen really quickly. The time period, I don't know. I'm not as confident. I do think next year is going to be interesting. Like, this time is different. They're dangerous words, but it is. We do have BlackRock and the ETFs and, central banks. Donald Trump, it looks like he bought another $40 million for whatever his holding company type thing is. It looks like the UAE might have bought a couple of $100 million worth. Recently, these big buys can only happen without moving the price for so long, and then one day Bitcoin will just go up to the next level, like it sort of did from 67K over $100,000. And yes, it's come back down a little bit at 88,000 or whatever. They'll just chop around for a little bit and they'll go up in steps. I fear it's going to happen pretty quick. I say like late Q1, Q2 next year. I hope it doesn't happen until 2027, but
I want to keep stacking.
I do, and like I will in regards keep stacking, to this, but I will. And like to be able to sum this up, I'm a new creature. Sure, must have bought a lot at 30K per Bitcoin to be well off now. I bought as much as I possibly could, but like in regards to Bitcoin, is at $30,000 Australian, which is 20,000 US. Like when I rediscovered again back in 2019. But then March 2020 happened and it fell down to 3,300 and I was buying it all the way down and that went from 3,300 all the way up to 69,400. I was buying it all the way. Well, first it went to like 64,000 or whatever. It came down and then went back up to 69,400. I was buying from 30,000. I don't want to mix Australian US. So from 20,000 US down to 3,300 all the way up to 64,000, all the way down to wherever it went in the 20s or whatever it was. Can't remember. All the way back up to 69,000, all the way back down to 17,400, all the way up to 127,000. I think I bought it like 125,000 or whatever. And then all the way back down to where we are now. I am literally straight after this live stream. The money should be in the exchange on Amber app. Going to buy more today as well. And then obviously saving in Bitcoin with any other gains from anything else, putting it in there and then stacking those skills intentionally to be where we are with the company to be able to stack it. So like I say that in regards to new people entering the space, when Bitcoin's $1 million, and then it goes on to $10 million over the next 5 to 10 years, in my opinion, then anything that you're buying at 88,000 or 127,000, like if you just, so many people came in, and that's why we had a top. They came in at the top, they bought it at 127,000, and they're like, oh, it's so expensive or whatever. Like when Bitcoin's 10 million, it's still so cheap. And people are going to say that same thing. Oh, you must have bought a lot. It's just consistently, for me, it was every 2 weeks at a minimum, just buying, doing what I could, trying different things to be able to get more and more and more and more and more. And just not stopping and giving up expensive things like flying to be able to do it head down, bum up. So hopefully 2027, but I think whether it's manipulation or it's just people selling, we've gone sideways for an entire year. There's a lot of pressure ready to explode high. Does that not mean that we can't come down to 58,000 one more time? Like fingers crossed. I want the meme to be real. I want to see 58K.
58K gang.
Oh, dude. I miss that. I miss that so much. But very, very soon, slowly and suddenly it's going to happen. So anyone just stack in, get a little bit of Christmas money, just buy a little bit more. Doesn't matter if it's $5, $10, $20, whatever. It's just all these little bits add up. And if you're like, oh, I don't have much money or whatever, but then you like just scrimp and save and put $5 in. Mm-hmm. And like whatever is like really hard for you to be able to do, something magical is going to happen in your life at some stage. You may get the opportunity to be able to provide your personal service to somebody at a higher rate or something like that. The universe will reward you for your proof of work in one way or another. Somehow karma works out. It's like if you donate money, you give money to somebody in need or whatever, it comes back tenfold or more every single time. I don't know how, I don't know why. It's the law of reciprocity, but if you put in the proof of work and you do the right thing, you will have more and more opportunities to do the right thing to a better level, degree, whatever. And then it's just a short couple of years, really, that you need to wait. But don't go. I don't know. For me, whoever I learned it off, whether it was Andre Antonopoulos or whatever. They said, head down, bum up for 4 years. I took it to heart, got to the 4-year mark, and I'm like, I'm going to go another year and do it. And then by that time, I'm still stacking more actually those skills and the tools and everything like that. Mm-hmm. And then just not stopping it. Now I'm like, we've got 3 years until digital ID, CBDCs, the banks won't allow you to get it into the exchange to say self-custody and stuff. So it's like, all right, like let's stay where we are, this level of grounded, ungrounded at the moment of balance in my life with the flying and the Bitcoin. But it's like, do I go out and buy a plane? No, I don't. Like, it's just like mission critical right now still to do it. And I think it's having that perspective. And yes, like it's super freaking privileged and stuff, but realizing like Bitcoin and self-custody is very essential if ourselves and if we want freedom for our friends and family. Like, it's really up to you. Like I'd like to ask you this, Fritz. How hard is it to orange pill those people close to you? Like, they can see that you're doing it, but like, how have you found that?
I was just gonna, when you mentioned that, I was just gonna mention how that can be very hard because people join like I did, like you did. At first blush, you're thinking number go up. You're kind of feeling like you see a broken system, you feel behind, you feel stolen from, and you want to catch up. And your brain is in like the stocks or the investments or real estate. And you want to, the game you're thinking is the fiat monkey brain of, oh, you got to hustle and do these things in this way in order to be smart and outsmart stuff and trade and do the things and catch up and do better. And with Bitcoin, it's like you want to shift it to skill set and philosophy and the based fundamentals. The investing, saving part is simpler than anything. Like, stay humble, stack sats. So yes, I found it hard where I got, let me just say, so I've had a pendulum in my brain where when I got really excited about Bitcoin, I'm sharing it, I'm talking about it, I'm evangelizing it, and you run into FUD or questioning, consternation, kind of like, oh, I don't care. Everything from apathy to real pushback and judgment. But again, I could orange pill some people and I'd try again, but it's a slow, steady kind of a trudge to get people to maybe, they have to intrinsically feel it or want it.
And they have to read the books. Like, they're not just going to learn it by osmosis either. Like, it's effort and energy. And that's why I love everyone that's tuning in live or whatever. But it's, that's the most frustrating thing that I find is we can't just flip a switch or whatever. And the reason I ask that is that's why it's so important for us to get as much as we possibly can, because those around us are lagging, They're not doing it. They're not putting in the proof of work. I understand some of them work in 2 jobs. They work full time. They need to go and look after the kids or whatever, and they don't think they have the capacity, or it's magic internet money, and they're not understanding that it's absolutely essential for a life of freedom. So we have to take that burden on, and that pressure, it's a privilege. Like, go out there and do everything you possibly can. And, you know, every $5 or $2 extra that is spare, to just chuck it in there, you know, it is going to make a world of difference down the track.
I try to get people with the base fundamentals, kind of describe what is the fiat money, what is Bitcoin, but not just from a number go up, but from the fundamental, like almost ethical point of view. And if they don't really get it, I got to just kind of let it go. So my pendulum going from really, really, really trying to kind of like, fuck them, you know, the price they deserve kind of thing. I've gone through the fuck them kind of point of view. And then I'll be like, no, I will keep trying. I'll keep educating. Couple of things that helps me, and I tell people to short circuit their psychology. I say, and I've done this for myself, where when you're staying humble and stacking sats, dollar cost averaging, DCA, is a good way just to stop looking at the price. You know, like you buy and then you want to watch it, like please go up or please go down or whatever. So it's like, don't look at the price, dollar cost average, just your skin in the game. Don't worry about it. And then 2, I'll go through this little thing where I'll just imagine dollar sat parity. So if it's $5 or $100 or whatever it is, just a little bit, and I feel like, oh, that's not much, I'll just look at the sats and be like, that's a lot of sats. And I'll just imagine a world where those sats really mean a lot more than they do. And then it kind of helps short circuit my feeling behind, you know. So, but anyway, staying humble, stacking sats. And I agree with you. I think there's kind of a universal reciprocity where it's like, you know, you get out of life in the universe what you put in. And so before you got to go, I do want to throw up, for example, you got your website here. Real quick, you had a pinned tweet to what you were talking about here, where this is a great pinned tweet you have here, where you do get to the correction. You predicted, you know, a drawdown down to kind of from where we're at down to where we are, but to keep it in perspective, stack sats, get out there, just go do shit. So anyway, good call on that one. Good tweet. You have a website, so you have a great place to direct people where it's like, well, where do I start? What are all the things? You break it down very nicely, where there's ways to buy it here. You like Amber, you can buy. You can use Bitcoin Way here to, if you need help, take self-custody with MicroSeed, stuff to read and keep learning. So you've got a good website here to your own efforts to educate people very nicely. I love that. And your podcast, G'day Bitcoin podcast. You've had some great guests on here. Start 9 just recently. Matt Hill was Start 9. Anyway, I love.
Can you just refresh that page real quick?
Yeah.
I'm just out of curiosity. Yeah, cool. All good. I was just seeing something. It said on that Matt Hill video, there's like 200 views, and I knew it was closer to 1,000. I was just wondering if YouTube, because it happened to Nico Moran, I think, from Simply Bitcoin, or maybe it was Walker. It was one of these great gentlemen. YouTube wasn't showing the views, which means it was actively suppressing the video. And I was like, is YouTube actively suppressing? Because yesterday, when I put it out, it stayed like a couple of hundred views for like all day. And it's just today that I saw it change, and I was wondering, like, are these pricks doing that, you know?
You know, I think I opened that earlier today because I was checking out your most recent videos, and I listened to the Start 9 one just earlier this afternoon for me. Yeah, so it just was sitting open. So I wonder sometimes. Walker had posted some things where it's like, what is going on with this wonky stuff? I think that way because, like a year ago, Daniel and I had a podcast bantering about stuff going on in the world. And I mean, talk about getting through COVID. I mean, well, Australia went nuts on COVID. We felt it here in America.
Victoria went nuts on COVID. I live like pretty much in the middle of nowhere. I didn't notice COVID. Unless people said COVID was going on, didn't know about it. Really. But Victoria, holy shit. Like, talk about a tyrannical government. That was insane. The world's longest lockdowns and some of the most just insane and absurd. The amount of just total government control for that. Victorians, like anyone living there, they really cop it. Their government is just so broke and insane.
Oh, yeah.
Not the whole government, but, the people at the tippity top. It's just fuck.
Oh, man.
Fuck.
So looking in hindsight on stuff like that, I would just see videos out of like Australia or in England or in California or whatever. And it's like, here's some somebody just sitting out on the beach all by them lonesome, but man, we got to go get them, just
crazy.
So in hindsight, what I'm hoping is that those crazy experiences that we got through and survived, and I kind of had this cognitive dissonance, like, oh, that wasn't real. But if I stop and think about it, it's like unbelievable. What I hope is that helped rattle people's cage, wake people up. And if they're waking up, hey, it's about the money, folks. So in order for these politicians to do all the things they're doing, they got to print the money. Where's this money coming from? What are they affording? What they're wanting to do with? So there's that. And the water's getting hot and the frogs are feeling it, but there's not a lid on the pot. You can escape here. So Bitcoin's like an open door, just make that hop. That's the point we want to make here.
Yeah. And, I'm a new creature in there for 100% is doing that. And everyone else that's watching live or watching the replay, like just by paying attention to Bitcoin, putting in the proof work, watching the podcast, you could be doing anything else. You could be playing some fucking ball sport or whatever, but you're here paying attention to Bitcoin. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I just hope it's in self-custody. And like you were saying, you're running your own node. These two things are really important. And they may not feel important now, but they will be in short order. And even if I'm wrong, like you're still going to get fabulously wealthy and it's number go up technology over time anyway. But just thank you, because it does take effort. It does take proof of work. It takes time. You have to put in sacrifice for everything to be able to get it. Like you're giving up something else, whether it's watching TV with the wife or a romantic movie or making love or whatever it is. The time that you're spending paying attention to Bitcoin has come from somewhere. So just thank you. And please just pay for Bitcoin forward, the big print. Highly recommend giving that away or just whatever. What's the Problem by Joe Bryan on YouTube is an amazing movie to give someone as their first touch point for Bitcoin, because everyone needs it in the world. The quicker more people have Bitcoin within your circle and the wider circle, the better your life gets and the better their life gets. And, it has that ripple effect and the world can get really good really, really quickly.
Yeah, I see a golden age ahead and we got to grab it by the reins and be sovereign, folks. Thank you, Sean, for all your good comments. It's been wonderful to have you. I love the conversation. We could have gone on. We gotta cut it out and cut it short. We got life to live. Run a node, take self-custody. Sean, you're gonna enjoy this.
And look into MicroSeed.
MicroSeed.
Get one.
Okay, so Sean, get a load of this. As we wrap up here, I'm going to close it with my sponsor, and you'll laugh at this one. As a Bitcoiner, you know that taking self-custody is critically important. But if you've ever had a seed phrase, you've probably had it written down on something kind of like this. You can hide it or secure it, but paper burns, paper fades, paper gets wet, paper rots, paper blows in the wind. Paper has things written on it that might look important. So get off paper and get yourself a MicroSeed. at microseed.io. Get the kit and crank out all the keys you'll ever need forever. Okay, we'll do a proper goodbye here then. So that was my ad. What, real quick, what did you think of that?
That is absolutely amazing. We're still live, but I'm going to ask you to send that to me. It's that's absolutely fantastic. That's hilarious. But it is so good. It is absolutely incredible. I got it obviously before I partnered with you guys, and I was just blown away. Really good mate Finn, who edits all my videos and stuff. He ended up getting one, and I said, I warn you, it's addictive. And he's like, I can't stop banging them out. I just have so much fun doing it. So they are fun, but warning, they are addictive. And when you run out of washers, which you will pretty quick, just go down to Bunnings.
Yeah, go down to the hardware store, buy some washers, whatever. So anyway, super easy. And yeah, and thanks for talking about it. It is a fun, great tool. So I will let you go, Sean. Thanks again. And bye, everybody.